Peace and love, everybody. It's your man, Manny Faces, back with another episode of Hip Hop Innovates with Manny Faces. I try to come to you weekdays to deliver these very brief video interludes, give some information, some insights, some updates about things that are happening in hip hop music and culture outside of, what's on the radio and just kind of the entertainment, gossipy type stuff. I wasn't here yesterday, and I apologize. That 1 hour, man, that daylight savings time just messes everybody up. So, but I'm here today. I want to talk to you about one thing that I saw that I want to share with you guys. If you haven't noticed or picked up on yourself, I want to remind people where I'm going to be at the end of the month. I got some cool things happening. And of course, I want you to make sure you let me know what it is you think I should be talking about or who my artist of the day should be as we talk about hip hop outside of just the regular everyday stuff. Hashtag Hip Hop Innovates on social media. You can find me over here at the Center for Hip Hop Advocacy, hiphopadvocacy.org. It's a nonprofit that I started to increase public awareness and understanding of hip-hop music and culture, and I do that myself through journalism, through public speaking, and research and media watchdogging and calling out people when they aren't giving hip-hop its props. So with that all being said, today the thing I want to cover with you is something that I saw on Hasan Minhaj's show, which is called a Patriot Act. Hasan Minhaj, the comedian. But he has this show on Netflix called Patriot Act with Hasan Minhaj, and the latest episode, shout out to my man Randy, pointed out that is about hip hop and streaming and the influence that hip hop has around the world, and that includes, as you can see here, a large part of his segment had to do with hip hop being used in other countries as sort of the soundtrack of resistance, the soundtrack of revolution against oppressive regimes throughout the world. I've talked on a couple of these episodes about hip hop's power to be an active force in social justice and politics, and how we think that maybe that doesn't exist as much anymore in American hip hop, although it does. It really does, and I think that that's a misnomer, a misconception that has to be rectified. There's a lot of work being done in social justice and activism and politics that's hip hop at its heart. So I've talked about that before. And I'll talk about it again for sure. But I thought Hasan Minhaj did a pretty good job. I thought some of his jokes in the beginning about, today's hip hop, and kind of coming down on some of these mumble rappers or whatever it is you might call the little pumps of the world, was a little bit, that's not what all today's hip hop is all about. But he got to make jokes as a comedian, and he, has to do his thing. But it was well done. And what he went into a great segment on again was the way that rap is being a force against oppression and oppressive regimes throughout the world. Something that hip hop is really good for, and the youth have always been using. And also, interestingly enough, how some governments are trying to then co-opt that and return it back to the protesters, like the governments using rap songs as sort of propaganda. So it was a really good primer. What I thought was really interesting about it, however, was he had a ton of clips. He had a ton of, reporting on these things. I've shared them in the newsletter, the HipHop Advocate, which I'll remind you in a little bit to sign up for. I've shared stories like this through my network because I see them happening. China, Russia, Thailand. There's a bunch of things going on around the world. But the hip hop media really doesn't cover this stuff. You'll see when you watch this where the clips are from. They're not all from mainstream American media. So that's Al Jazeera, for example, that had some coverage on this. The ones I've seen have been from the more mainstream, the New York Times, Washington Post, Guardian, kind of things. And I find that to be disappointing. And that's why you have the impression that hip hop isn't really involved in politics and activism and being the voice, the champion of the voiceless like it used to be, because hip hop media doesn't cover it. Mainstream media kind of does sometimes, but they don't always get it right. So shouts to Hasan Minhaj for using his platform, his giant show on Netflix, to shine light on this. So once again, check that out. It's on YouTube. If you don't have Netflix, you can watch the episode. I think the whole episode's on YouTube. But he's also on Netflix, and I just wanted to give him a shout out. So there is that. Real quick, once again, sign up for that newsletter I talked about. It's at hiphopadvocacy.org. You can sign up for the Hip Hop Advocate, and what I do is I hand curate stories like this, stories like the ones that Hasan Minhaj talked about in this episode, stories from around the web of hip hop on a grander scale. Just again, not just the everyday stuff, but the business of hip hop, the politics of hip hop, education. Hip hop being used in education is most newsletters have a bunch of stories about that. So you want to sign up for that. Go to hiphopadvocacy.org. It comes out every 2 weeks or so. I try to do it every week and a half, every now and then. Super interesting stuff, innovation, inspiration, and insight that has to do with hip hop music and culture. I welcome you to sign up for it, but I also welcome you to forward it to people who don't really understand hip hop. It's a great resource for that, to show people what the hip hop that you love, the music and the culture, is really all about. It's a great tool for that. So sign up at hiphopadvocacy.org. You can also check out Hip Hop Can Save America, the podcast. I interview a bunch of innovators, inspirational people in fields that are attached to hip hop or use hip hop. Again, hip hop education, museums, libraries, dance, theater, just a bunch of different ways that hip hop's being used in inspirational, innovative ways that you don't hear about. Certainly not from the hip hop media, and only occasionally from mainstream media when they do occasionally get it right. So that's it for me today. Two more things to tell you. Number one, the artist of the day. You can nominate your artist of the day. Hashtag HipHop Innovates, or leave a comment on this video wherever you find it. I'm on Facebook. If you prefer YouTube, I'm there. And Instagram TV, I've started using. And that's really well for these. So I try to keep them under 10 minutes long. So do that. Hashtag HipHop Innovates, and tell me who you think the artist of the day. Since we're talking about international artists, since we're talking about people with a voice and a real power to express themselves and go against political issues. Akala is one of my favorite artists. He's from the UK. I've been listening to his music for quite a long time, but he's also a lecturer. He has an amazing lecture. I think it's Oxford. He gives a lecture on YouTube from a bunch of years back where he just goes through like the history of mankind and imperialism and colonialism and Africa, and gets really deep and just a great presentation. You notice that Akala also got him up here. Check out his site. He's an author. He's written books, The Ruins of Empires. Now he has a hip hop children's book. An amazing, brilliant artist, who again is outspoken. He's often on TV speaking against, racism and other political issues in England. But shouts to Akala, man. Check him out at Akala. I guess, I don't know, just Google him. He's all over the place. AkalaMusic.com. All right. So check that out. Again, sticking on the international tip. Shouts to international hip hop. I think from U.S. point of view, we always get real focused on U.S. and we forget that there's a lot of great music being made around the world. And by English speaking artists, that's something we can listen to if we don't know other, but I know France has a great hip hop scene, Spain, Brazil, also countries again using hip hop against, to speak out, in political. Now, Hasan Minhaj in his show missed a bunch of countries. We could talk about that in another episode of Hip Hop Innovates. I'll bring back and speak about some more. But shouts to people who are doing that across the world, really putting their lives on the line. They don't have the freedoms, that we have in this country, to be able to speak out against your government. So shouts to all of them. Very quickly, you can check out mannyfaces.com, go to the calendar, see where I'm going to be. I got 3 really interesting appearances coming up at the end of the month. On March 29th, Friday, I'll be presenting at the Hip Hop Literacies Conference at Ohio State University. On Saturday, March 30th, I'll be keynote speaking at Carnegie Mellon University along with Hip Hop Hacks. Shouts to Summer. Going to have some great hackathon, hip hop hackathon action going on over there. And then Saturday, April 6th, I'll be at Harvard at the Graduate School of Education for the Can't Stop Hip Hop Education Conference, and I'll be there representing Hip Hop Can Save America, the podcast. I'll be up there, I'll be participating, and I'll be interviewing folks and just all up in the mix at the Can't Stop Hip Hop Education Conference at Harvard. So do check out mannyfaces.com to find out where I'll be and find out more about these great conferences that are hip-hop related happening throughout the country. That's it for me. I'll try to be back here tomorrow, God willing. Thank y'all for listening. Hit me up, social media, hashtag HipHop Innovates. I'm out. Peace.